about the Congregation of Sacred Practices. It's a community. Oh, what is happening here? Sorry. It's a community promoted that promotes healing, growing, and the connection with the divine. And if you want to know more about the Congregation of Sacred Practice, you can definitely visit sacredpractice.org. That's one word, sacredpractice.org. And you can learn more about the different things that the congregation offers. And I think it's a fascinating place, and we're honored to be part of this community. As we start, let me just say, kind of as a disclaimer, that I'm not here to sell you anything. Not personally, and not as part of the congregation. The idea is to present you some ideas that I think are interesting or at least thought-provoking, but not to convince you or anything. I'll say my thing, and then hopefully with an open mind, you decide whether this is useful for you or not. And if not, that's fine. And if it is, well, we'll be very happy. But again, the idea is just to present these ideas for you to play with it. It's kind of the end of the day, so let's take a minute to ground ourselves. Take a couple of deep breaths just to connect first with ourselves and then with spirit. And give yourself permission to be here. Right? You already made the commitment to be here, but I know that when we're standing in front of the computer, it becomes a little harder to be here. And that's going to be actually part of the talk. We have a little screen over here with Instagram and a little other one over here with messages, and we may feel tempted to do this. So in as much as possible, I invite you to give yourself permission to be here. Like they say sometimes in meditation or yoga retreats, there's nowhere to go and nothing to do. So be here now and try to be here. So a couple of breaths again. Thank you. And let's get started. And I want to get started with a question. I'll be asking you some questions. If you feel like you want to write something in the chat, feel free to do so. But they're more to get your juices going, right? The idea. And the first one is the topic of this talk is, does it ever feel to you, do you ever feel like life is too much? Like you're too busy, like there's so many things to do, so not enough time, so many books to read, too many podcasts to listen to, so many places that you need to go. We need to meditate, we need to do yoga, we need to eat well, we need to exercise, we need to connect with our friends, write that letter, so on and so forth. It seems like it never ends, right? It seems like there's always something going on. There's almost seems like a ongoing process of self-improvement. And in a way, it reminds me of Sisyphus, right? This idea of the myth of Sisyphus carrying this boulder up the hill just to get to the top, and the boulder rolling down again and again just to start again. So it becomes exhausting. And as we'll discuss today, that seems to be embedded in the human condition. And even the funny thing is that even when we shouldn't be rushing, even when we shouldn't be trying to accomplish something, we still tend to do it. At least I find myself doing it. And let me tell you an example. It's not a good one, but not because I don't appear in the best of lights, but just to give you this sense of how I sometimes get busy even when you don't have to. So a couple of years ago, my family and I decided to go to Disneyland. And I know you may have some thoughts about Disneyland, maybe the whole idea about what Disneyland is or shouldn't be. Just think about it as an amusement park, the ultimate amusement park. So we agreed to go there. It was not our first time, mind you. So we got the tickets, kind of expensive tickets. And somehow in my head, I got this idea that, okay, if we're going to do Disneyland, we're going to do it right. So I decided to make a list of all the rides that I was going to visit in Disneyland, right? And you may not know this, but there are actually books that you can get about how to do Disneyland right. I didn't get a book. I'm not that crazy. I didn't buy a book, but I did get a couple from the library. And I actually start to study the books about what was the right way to do Disneyland and why some people start going clockwise and some people go against clockwise and what it might be a good idea to go all the way to the end. So anyway, I found myself with this very elaborate plan about how to do Disneyland right. So the moment the park, we got there early, the moment the park opened the doors, I was rushing with my family. Come on, let's go all the way to the Pirates of the Caribbean. We finished the Pirates of the Caribbean. Let's go back to get Space Mountain. And from there we go. So we were crisscrossing the park throughout the day. Crazy. I'm happy to say that we did it. We accomplished our goal and we kind of won Disneyland. But I believe you can see the irony of this. In winning Disneyland, we missed the experience. We were too busy trying to accomplish it, to get it right, that I forgot to enjoy it. I did enjoy the ride here and there, but my mind was so busy in the next thing that I really didn't have the chance to enjoy it. And in some ways, that's what striving does. We get too busy, too hectic, too future-oriented, and we don't enjoy the moment that we are. Now, there's one idea that I'm going to be telling you over and over, and that's the main. If you leave this, again, I don't know what to call a lecture, sermon, whatever, this conversation with one idea is this, and I'll repeat it a few times. Play hard, but don't take yourself so seriously. It's not a slogan. The idea is that it is kind of a way of living. And a way of a practice, if you may. And let me ask you yet another question. And this is one of those forbidden questions that we ask ourselves when we're very tired and we're really struggling, or maybe we don't ask ourselves because it feels like if we ask it aloud, it could bring down the full house of cards will be tumbling down. What if life has no purpose? What if all our struggles, out of all of our striving, amounts to nothing? What if we want to get a little elegant, as Shakespeare called it, right? A tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. The existentialists actually echo this idea, and they tell us that life is meaningless. They actually call it worse. They say that life is absurd, that it has no purpose whatsoever. Now, that may sound heavy, right? So there's no purpose. What's the point, right? We're not going to go that far. I'll tell you now, we're not going to go to the level of absurdism. But I want you to ask yourself this question again. What if there is all our striving is purposeless? Now, of course, I can almost hear the objection, right? It's the objection that even my head is asking right now. So if it doesn't have you can say that it doesn't have a purpose. I mean, what about my work? What about my efforts? Are you going to say that it's pointless? Maybe then I shouldn't do anything. I shouldn't try. That sounds like bypassing. That sounds like nihilism, right? Well, hold your horses. Is not like that. That's not the way I'm presenting it. Let me be very clear. First, I am not saying that life is meaningless. I'm saying that our efforts may be meaningless. And second, and this is something we'll discuss towards the end of the talk, I'm not bypassing or trivializing pain. I want to take that seriously. So if that's something that you're thinking, oh, what are you saying? We'll get to that in a moment. And let me introduce here an idea. This is an idea from Hinduism. It's the idea of Līlā. Theologians and philosophers have asked from the beginning of time why there's something and not nothing. Or to put it in more theological terms, why did God created the universe? Why did God created us? And the answer that Līlā, the Hindu, said, well, God created the universe as an expression of creativity. as play. In other words, when God is playing, he, and allow me to say he, although you can change he for a god, for a goddess, or the mystery or spirit, whatever words works for you. I'll just use God because it's shorter, I guess. But of course, I'm not attached to the word. But when God plays, he creates universe. This idea that the universe is the dance of God. God is the dancer. Shiva is the dancer. Nataraja is the dancer, and we are the dance. This whole universe is the dance of God. So in this idea, we are living in God's playground. And the invitation is to fully engage in the play, because we get to know ourselves, or even more so, God gets to know himself through our play, through play. So God's playground, sorry. And that's where it comes interesting. So if you are I'm saying, and the Hindus are saying, life is play, life is Līlā, life is a game. Why does it feel so hard? Why does it feel so heavy? Why does it feel like this, like I said, this never-ending process, right? The funny thing is that it may be by design. Whose design? Probably God, I don't know. But let me tell you all the ways in which it seems like we are programmed, or life it seems to be organized to be difficult. Or have like a difficult game, right? We'll get this idea going, right? There are a bunch of layers that make life seem difficult, seem like work. And let's go over them. There are 5 layers. The first one is biology, right? Our biology is wired to survival. So if you think about it, for most of human existence, the environment was not safe. So we had to be scanning the environment just to make sure that nothing was going to eat us. It has been actually been suggested that we are the descendants of the neurotics that survive. So our biology makes us feel like life is work. We need to work to survive. Survival means work. That's the first one. The second one is our civilization. From the moment agriculture was introduced, life became work. We have to plan, we have to plant, we have to harvest, we have to store, we have to learn the seasons, and then we have to do it again for the next season. So all of the sudden, life was not just about gathering whatever you could find. Life became future-oriented. Life became something that you had to work to get right. This idea, this is the third layer, gets even further developed when we think about the economic layer, which is this idea that if you want to be a member of society, you have to be productive. As one of my clients told me once, I don't know if I'm adding value to life. We're wired to add value. And in some ways, when you are not productive, the worst thing that you can be is useless. The worst thing that you can be is lazy. I was going to say, when I was preparing this talk, I was talking with someone and said, well, is the Protestant work ethic? And she was from China and say, oh, no. In China, it's even worse. You work until the day you die. Right. So there's something about the economic system that say you need to produce. Free riders are not to be accepted. So again, yet another layer of why life is work or feels like work. Then there's the psychological layer. Very early on, as we are little children, we realize that there are certain unwritten rules that we need to observe. So we realize, oh, mom is angry. I better do what she told me to do. Oh, dad seems to be upset. I'm going to clean my room. And we develop this idea of a false self whose only job is to make sure that you are in the good side of those that are important for you. Originally, our parents, our caretakers, eventually our boss, our superiors. So this false self makes us feel like the purpose of life is to follow the rules. We become good girls, we become good boys, follow the rules. So more work, more work. And the last of these layers is religion, which is actually surprising because you would imagine that we go to religion to find consolation for all these burdens, right? But the problem is that when we interpret religions very narrowly, religions are also about achieving something. Now, it could be heaven. So we're working really hard to get to heaven. And in the same process, we're making sure that we don't go to hell. That's a lot of work. Or we need to achieve liberation, nirvana, moksha, however you want to call it. So we need to do a lot of meditation. We need to sit down and meditate or do yoga, doing in order to achieve something. So a lot of work as well. So all these layers, it's like our backpack becomes heavier and heavier and heavier. And we need to make sure that we are doing things right and we're doing it in the right moment at the right time, that we remain safe, that we remain productive, and so on and so forth. And when we don't, something inside ourselves makes us feel like you're not doing things right. That gets connected with our self-worth. So we begin to feel that if I'm not working, if I'm not doing, I'm worthless. So work becomes, as you can see, things become very serious. The stakes are very high. So play hard and don't take yourself so seriously begins to sound a little bit like madness, doesn't it? Well, let's move on. Let me give you two metaphors to think of this idea and see if the idea of play makes more sense. I said that in the idea of Līlā, the word as play, we are the dance and God is the dancer, right? And think about a moment, why do we dance? Why do we listen to music? We don't do it to win. When we listen to music, we're not doing it to achieve something. We're not listening, we don't tell someone, hey, I listened to the Beethoven's Fifth Symphony in 5 minutes. I won, like me in Disneyland, right? We dance because it's fun to dance. We listen to music for the sake of the experience itself. It's not to achieve anything beyond that. We're not trying to, the dancers in the dance floor are not trying to reach a point. There's not a goal. There's not a finish line. We're just dancing. It's about the experience. It's about the song. It's about the music. So what if life was less than a preparing for an exam and more as dancing? Another metaphor, another idea. You probably have heard before that life is like the movies. And this almost seems obvious, right? Movies reflect life. But I want to go a little deeper with this thing. If you think about it, why do we go to the movies? We basically go to the movies for two reasons. We go to the movies to have fun, and we go to the movies to learn. And usually it's a combination of both. And even in that, you can hear how the idea of Līlā begins to echo again, right? The playground of God, to learn and to have fun. Now, here comes an interesting question. If we go to the movies to have fun and to learn, why do we go to scary movies? Why do we pay to watch drama, to cry? We go to the movies and cry in the movies. So we go to the movies and jump in the movies, right? There's something about these experiences. We love to get lost in the movie. We love to get so immersed in the movie that we forget for a time, is this a movie? I don't know if this has happened to you, but sometimes you actually say that when the bad guy appears in the movie, you say, watch out behind you, or something like that. We get caught in the movie. But if you think about it, we're doing something very interesting because we are getting caught in the movie. We're getting trapped by the movie. But at the same time, we know that it's not real. Even when we are very, very committed to the story, we know that if the character dies, we're not dying. Nothing is happening for us. So we have this ability to be in those two worlds, and this is going to be meaningful in a moment, right? We are able to get fully immersed in the movie and at the same time stay outside. even if the movie is scary. We actually like those type of movies. But it seems like in life, we forget that. We confuse the story, the role, with reality. So then somebody would ask, so what's the point of suffering? And I believe that you can begin to understand where the point of suffering comes. Alan Watts was asked well, what's the point of suffering? And he gave an answer that I just loved, although it's a little upsetting. He said, to thicken the plot. That's the whole point of suffering. And you may say, well, that's not very, very nice for people suffering. But think about it for a moment. Imagine a movie where nothing happens. This is a movie about a family where they are all happy, they're all healthy, they love each other, they eat healthy food, they never fight, they go to school and everyone gets good grades. The parents go to work and they have a wonderful job and they're making good money and they live in a good country. Nothing happens. Nothing bad ever happens. That would be a rather boring movie. We go to the movies to get into something interesting. We like movies that are complex. We like movies that surprise us. We like movies that makes us think and again, have fun or learn something. So the idea of thickening the plot begins to make a little bit of sense, I hope. And I hope that the idea of playing hard, but don't take yourself too seriously, begins to make sense a bit. Now, we're talking about playing. We're talking about a game. A fair question would be, so if life is play, what are the rules of the game? And here is a complicated word to use, or a weird word to use, because on the one hand, well, if it is game, if it is play, it shouldn't have any rules. But if you think about it, even the best games have some rules. Whether it's chess or soccer or the Olympics, there are some rules, and those rules allow us to be better at the game because we know what is allowed and what is not allowed in the game. So now let me give you six of these rules of the game of life, of the Līlā of life. The first one, perhaps the most important that I already suggested to you, you are not who you think you are. You were cast on a role. And since you are in that, you are the character of the movie, right? And since you are in this character, you might as well play the role. But don't become a method actor of life. Don't get too attached to the role that you forget who you are outside the role. Again, the playground of God. So you're not who you think you are. Whatever happens is not even about you. Second rule, you don't have to be consistent. I've been suggesting that life is like a movie. Thank you, Peter. I said that life is like a movie, and yes, it is. But maybe we shouldn't take the script so seriously. Maybe it's more like improv, right? Where things happen, you don't even know. You show up, but you don't even know what's going to happen next. So you have to roll with the punches, right? So life may be like improv. And if that is the case, you don't owe any loyalty to the person you were 5 years ago, 5 days ago, 5 minutes ago. You can always change your role. You can always change who you are and how you act or behave. So you don't have to follow. You don't have to get too attached to the role that you were assigned. Third one, and this is a complicated one. You don't have to have an opinion about everything. We humans love to make things either good or bad, things in dichotomies, right? And polar opposites. Is good or bad, is right or wrong, is with me or against me. There's this famous poem of Rumi that is often quoted, right? Out beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right doing, there is a field. I'll meet you there. And the fact is that we never really know if something is good or bad. again, thinking in terms of movies, often, quite often, the tragedy, quote unquote, at the beginning of the movie is what actually launches the adventure of our hero or heroine, right? Is the call to action. Something horrible happened, but that horrible thing that happened, again, quote unquote, is going to be unfolding in some ways that is going to end in a very good place. So how would it be not to have an opinion about everything? How would it be not to judge, not to take it seriously? Even failures, right? Failure is just feedback. So anyway, let's move on with the rules. Rule number 4. You can't lose in this game. The game is rigged in your favor. So don't worry so much. And again, because the experience are just plot twists. Oh, plot twists, right? How are we going to play with this new thing that happened? Again, but for that, you need to stay with the idea that it is play, that is a game. Rule number 5. The rules are not fixed. If you have ever seen or played, if you have ever played with children or seen children play, for adults, it's terrible because the rules change all the time. All of a sudden, in order to be it, you need to touch twice, and you cannot do it one to another again. And then the floor is lava all of a sudden. So the rules change and that's what is fun about it, that the rules keep changing. So again, it's a little bit that improv, plot twist all the time. Develop a sense for surprises. And there are more rules. We could probably come up with many, many rules, and philosopher has come with many, but I'm just giving you 6 that I think are fun to consider, right? The last one, and remember, we're talking about the Hindu here. The game never actually ends, right? Life is a process of becoming. There's no winning. There's no finish line. Just like an actor finish one movie or one show and gets a job in another one, and life goes on. So play hard and don't take yourself so seriously. I hope it begins to make sense. I hope you begin to get what you're talking about. Now, as I said, perhaps the hardest objection to this idea of Līlā, of life as play, is the idea of suffering. This idea, well, are you saying that suffering is all part of the plot? Are you saying that suffering doesn't count? If I were to tell to someone that lost their child in a war or in an act of God, in a tragedy or whatever, if I were to tell this person, oh, don't worry, it's just play, I would deserve to be hit in the face, right? We have to be very mindful. Trauma, pain, suffering matter. We have to tread lightly here in a way, because perhaps you listening to me or someone you work with or someone you've been with is going through or has gone through to something painful. We all have, right? So how do we understand this? How do we make sense of suffering? The Buddhists here have an interesting concept here that you probably have heard. Pain is real, suffering is optional. Now, how does that make sense? It's an interesting concept. And one way that they explain that concept is through the doctrine of the 2 truths. And let me explain you this idea. Imagine that there is a conventional truth where pain matters. This is the movie. Over here, pain is real, harm is real, our decisions matter, everything matters. This is the conventional or the relative truth. And in the other side, over here, we have the absolute truth. Over here, life is game, life is play. It's all story. It's all part of the plot. So really, what the Buddhists are telling us is that it all depends on your perspective. If you are over here, pain matters. If you are over here, pain doesn't matter. Now, what happens, because pain, remember those 5 layers? Those 5 layers are designed to get us caught in the story. That's the way the universe is this, or our planet, or the game is trying to get us caught in this story. Now, like I said, you cannot come and tell someone over here, oh, don't worry, it's just all the game. It's all just play. No, you have to meet them in that place. You have to really understand that that's where they are right now. They have been caught in the movie, and you have to honor that because it has happened to us as well. The real challenge is to hold both at the same time, in the same way that we do it in the movies. In the movies, we're actually able to hold both through simultaneously. But as I said, in life, we tend to forget that. So we don't try to push someone. You don't yell to the actor in the middle of the movie, it's just a movie. They wouldn't be able to hear you anyway. They wouldn't be able to believe it. So this process is something that requires that requires a process of maturation. What trauma does, what pain does in a way, is that it doesn't invalidate the idea of play. It blocks access to it. The energy just doesn't flow. You get constricted. And when there's constriction in the energy in the body, you don't see those things. So this idea of play cannot be imposed. It has to be found. And here's something that is interesting is that when holding sacred sacraments, sacred medicine, this is something that I see very often. Actually, I like to call it the cosmic laughter. That all of the sudden in a sacred, what I mean by that is using sacraments, medicine, sacred mushrooms, or other substances, plant medicine and other substances. All of a sudden, in the middle of the ceremony, the person starts laughing. Not like a maniacal laughter, just like the laughter that you get when somebody tells you a really, really good joke. They just start laughing, and when you ask them what's going on, they just say, it is so silly. It is so obvious. They're able to see how they are just getting caught over here. And the medicine shows them over here. So the cosmic laughter is wonderful because it makes you see that things work like this, that this idea of life as play is not totally crazy. We actually seen it. Now, if life is play, does that mean that it's meaningless? Does that mean that there is no point in trying? So we become blobs and don't wake up tomorrow morning? Oh, no, not at all. Remember the phrase, work hard, but don't take yourself so seriously. You can play very seriously. And to help us to bring this concept home, the Hindu give us two concepts, the concept of karma and dharma. Over here, your action matters. What you do, your actions have consequences. So much so, the Buddhists would actually say that whatever you do over here may have consequence over here. So you have to really play your role. You really have to do what to do. And the idea of dharma is precisely that you are responsible to act according to your role. If you are the villain in the story, if you're the hero of the story, if you're the warrior, if you're a doctor, if you're a minister, whatever it is, honor your role and play. Think about an athlete. Think about a chess player, a dancer, an actor. They really practice. They really hone their craft. They sweat. They take it seriously. Hopefully, they know that it's still a game. Imagine a soccer player, right? He gets into the game and say, well, this doesn't matter. It's just a game. No, get out of the field. We don't want players with that attitude. Well, while you're in the game, play to win. Play with all your heart. But don't take yourself so seriously. And just like in any game, just like we saw in the Olympics, at the end of the game, the players come together and they shake hands and say, well done, good game. Or like children, when they're having these very intricate and fun games, and then mom calls them for dinner, they just say, see you tomorrow. And the next day they'll be playing another game, right? And they have it. Let me give you 3 more ideas to bring this home in a way. Picture children making sand castles at the beach. They get really into it, right? They build it. They may be very sophisticated or very simple constructions. They may just a lump of sand together, but they're really having fun. And then invariably, a wave comes, boom, and knocks it down, right? And what do children do? First, they might yell, oh, right after they begin building another castle. They know what's going to happen. They might really enjoy their castle, but they're having the experience playing it like that. It's a game. And even the process of getting the castle knocked down is like, oh, and now we're going to do another, and they're going to have a little hole before it to kind of hold the water and not get the castle. But it is this spirit of play what makes it fun. Now, if that's too simple of an image, let me give you a more dramatic one. In the Bhagavad Gita is the most sacred book in India, right? And it tells the story of a big war, the biggest war ever. Huge armies, they're face to face, they're about to get into war, right? And to make it even more dramatic, these two armies, the Pandavas and the Kauravas, they're related, they're cousins. They've lived together most of their life, so they know each other, and they have the same teachers and their same relatives and friends and all of that. So this is going to be a horrible battle. So as the two armies are about to start, the battle is about to start, Arjuna, which is the archetype of the great warrior, goes into the middle of the battlefield, and he's supposed to blow the conch to begin the battle, right? But when he sees what is about to happen, when he sees that these two armies are armies of relatives, he kind of freaks out and says, I can't fight. Nothing good can come from killing your relatives. I refuse to fight. He throws down his bow and arrows. Now, Krishna is lucky because his charioteer, Arjuna is lucky because his charioteer is Krishna, and Krishna happens to be God. So Krishna knows these two truths very well. So Krishna, instead of telling him, as you would imagine a god perhaps say, yeah, don't kill, killing is bad, so just go to the cave and meditate, he tells him actually two things. He tells Arjuna, first, the Kauravas are already dead. Whoever is going to die today is going to die anyway, and you have nothing to do but to play your part in it. And second, silly one, the soul is imperishable. And you, my friend, you are a warrior. And as a warrior, your duty is to fight. So grab your bow and fight. You see the two truths. He's telling both things. Nothing is really happening. This is just a story, but you're a warrior and you need to fight. Fight with all you have, my friend. So he's basically telling him, play hard, go into battle, but don't take yourself too seriously. One last image. I promise you we're getting close to the end. Remember the movie Groundhog Day? When John Connor is trapped in this loop, same day living over and over and over. So what does he do when he realizes of this loop? First, he pursues selfish pleasures, right? He eats anything he wants. Hey, he's not going to gain any weight anywhere. He tricks women into having sex with him. He punches this guy that he hates in the face. He does whatever he wants. There's no consequence. But soon enough, he gets bored of that. And then he decides to kill himself. You see, he's all self-centered. He's taking himself too seriously. And he tries to kill himself in the most creative possible ways, including killing Punxsutawney Phil in one of those attempts, right? But nothing happens. The process keeps repeating and repeating and repeating. So eventually, he stops taking himself seriously. And he said, well, if I'm here, I might as well do something. So he learns to play the piano, and he knows at what time the kid is going to fall from the tree and catches the tree. He changes the tire of these women that are in their car. He begins to get out of himself, begins to take himself less seriously. He begins to enjoy. He learns to, again, play music and dance, he fully engages in life without grasping at life. Because, hey, it's going to repeat again tomorrow and tomorrow. That's when things change. That's the moment when things change, when he begins fully engaging, playing hard, but stops taking himself serious. Now, why does this matter to you, to me, to us? Well, how do we put this in practice? So before we get there, take a moment to let it really sink in. I've been bombarding you with a lot of information and stories and examples and stuff. But take a moment to let it sink in. Perhaps take one couple of breaths and ask yourself, how does this apply to me? Where and how am I striving instead of gliding? Where am I struggling instead of playing? Now, watch out here, because if you find a hint of self-judgment there, just try to let it go. We all do it. As we said, it's designed, it's in the system to get caught by it. How can you drop the weight? How can you relax the contraction? How can you reclaim your right to play? So this month, by the way, these sessions and the unfolding is a monthly offering. So in a month, we'll hopefully I'll see you again. But for this month, I invite you to reclaim this idea of play. I invite you to see if you can take life more like a dance than a race. And you may repeat, when you find yourself striving, when you find yourself trying, working, you may repeat in silence to yourself, life is play. You can say, it is only a game. You may want to remember those children building castle, having fun about whatever is going on for them. So whatever is happening in your life, see if you can reframe it as play. And you can remember to play hard and don't take yourself so serious. And I'm going to finish with a story and a prayer. I love this story. It's a fun story. So the master had never been in a football match. So his disciples decided to take him to one. So they took it to a game between the Blue Dreamers and the Red Guardians, if that rings any bells, right? So the Dreamers scored first, and the master starts cheering and throws his hat up here in the air, and he's like, yeah. And a few minutes later, the Guardians score. And again, the master jumps in his seat and cheers and throws his hat up in the air. And this happens a few more times, regardless of who's scoring. The master just enjoys it. And then eventually a guy that was sitting behind him gets puzzled by it and taps the master in the shoulder and asks him, excuse me, good man, which side are you rooting for? And the master says, me? Oh, I'm not rooting for either side. I'm just enjoying the game. That's the spirit. That's the spirit. So let's take a moment, because this is an offering of the congregation. Let's end with this prayer, and then if you have some questions, I'll be more than happy to talk with you about it. So close our eyes if that feels right, and if not, just look away from the screen and go back inside. May our efforts be steady. May our burdens be light. And when life feels like work, may we remember those children building castles. May we dance and laugh and learn. And may we remember always to play hard, but not take ourselves too seriously. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.